Hello, my name is Professor Døuglas Chийni. I'm from the University of Washington in Seattle, Washington. And I first got involved in this project about a year and a half ago for the Schools for All project when I met Eva Boniva, and we were discussing the importance of inclusive education. And some of the projects that I've worked on in the past throughout my career have been to try to help teachers and principals understand methods, strategies, approaches so that we can include all students in our schools, not just those that are successful, not just those that are our best learners, not just those that have the best social skills to get along with friends, but all means all in our practice in the US these days. So when we say all, we mean that we will work with all students, no matter what their level of functioning, what their ability level, no matter what their race, ethnicity, gender, disability. So the practice of inclusive education is actually interpreted quite broadly in the States to include all. And this puts somewhat of a challenge to our teachers, and we've noticed this over the last 20 to 30 years, that when we work with all, our learners are quite diverse and they have differences. And we need to adjust our teaching styles so that we can work with a broad range of learners. So my interest in this project was quite direct and quite initial and quite quick to say to the director, Boniva, that we would certainly consult and certainly collaborate and certainly talk about some practices that are helpful for including all children in the classroom. And much of the project, as I've gone around to the 5 schools, I've noticed the emphasis is on our work with including children who have difficulties with learning and children who have some special education needs. So many of the questions that I've received from the teachers at each of the schools have been focused upon issues of how do I accommodate my teaching to meet the needs of all students? How do I adjust my teaching pedagogy, my teaching approach, so that I can change from whole group instruction to small group instruction? How do I work in the classroom when students are unmotivated? What do I do when a student has a behavior problem? What if I have someone who's talking too much and isn't working on their lessons? So I've been asked quite a few questions about approaches and strategies, and we've done this work in the States now for about 30 years so that we can talk about ways that the special educator and the general educator in the classroom can work together, can adjust lessons, can redesign the classroom so that groups work together, small groups, groups of 2 students working together on a task, groups of 4 students working on a task. And we've tried to assist the teachers, because this is a big change in the approach to teaching, from working with all the group and expecting all 25 learners in the classroom can understand one approach to learning. So we've been trying to break it down so there are multiple ways of learning in small groups, so that some students can learn through modified tasks, some students can be a leader in the group and help students with a lower ability and functioning level. Some students can work as a note taker, and they might be the person who reports out the findings of the small group to the teacher. And it changes the role of the teacher so that the teacher becomes not the only one who owns the knowledge, but the one who facilitates the knowledge in these groups. So differentiating instruction has been a big term in America, and we differentiate the type of instruction to meet the student's ability level. I think the other major change over the last 30 years, as I mentioned in small groups, is to have students help one another so that the teacher is able to manage the learning in small groups and facilitate that learning and isn't on their own in the classroom, but assists the students to work together and critically think about the task that they're focusing on, and then have the group of children find ways to solve problems, to work together in teams, to cooperate. So working in groups is much like what the students will have to do as they grow up and as they work in teams. Teams in business, teams in engineering, teams in professional association, teams that are on a work site trying to renovate a building. It's about working together to cooperate to come out with your end product. So the differentiated instruction has been a big topic. The other topic that many of the teachers brought to me when I visited the schools in the project was how do these group works, or when we differentiate instruction, will the students still be able to meet the state standard? Will they be able to take the state test? Will they be able to pass the curriculum measures? And we've been working with adjustments to the curriculum with students with special needs so that our students are increasing their abilities to meet the state standards, and none of this has been detrimental for all of the children in the classroom, these types of learning projects that have students work together and differentiate the instruction. So state standards can still be met. Teachers can still approach the content and make sure that they teach the content. And then they just have to closely monitor, progress monitoring is what we call it, collect some information and data on student performance to make sure that all students are meeting the standard that is set for their classroom learning. One other area that has come up in these discussions has also been how do we engage families? There's been many questions by the teachers and the principals that I spoke to that they would like to increase the level of family or parent involvement in the school. And we've also looked closely at this in the States, and we do know that parents and family members who are more involved in the student's education and more supportive of the student's education will lead to greater success of students in school. So I think that the project is going to be very helpful in several of the schools to develop some family support groups or parent support groups, some parent education groups, some parent committee meetings. And I think there's a number of ways that parents can be more engaged in the school and the teachers to be engaged with the parents. I think it's a matter of building trust, building support with one another, and working toward cooperative goals that benefit the sons and daughters, the students overall. So we're all working together on better performance of students, and the school as a more welcoming environment for the parents and families. Much of this work that I talk with both the project staff here at the Center for Inclusive Education as well as the schools we visited throughout the Sofia region and here in Bulgaria, much of this is based on a change that involves teachers working together in groups themselves. So a school leadership team and a school discipline team that focus on the problems, are focused on the issues. They build from their own strengths because there are many talents and strengths in all of the teachers in the schools. And they work toward a common goal. They work together, they unite, and they work toward these common goals, such as I mentioned, diversifying or differentiating instruction, learning new techniques for group instruction, learning new classroom management skills, and working with family members, as well as collecting important data and information to evaluate their progress through progress monitoring. It is often done, what we found in the States is by putting together strong teams that are committed toward their goals and who will then influence the rest of the teachers and support them so that they also can learn new skills and meet goals for the project, as well as their students, as well as their schools, as well as their teachers and families. I'd like to conclude my talk by saying it's been a great pleasure and honor to spend this past week in Bulgaria and Bulgarian schools and here at the Center for Inclusive Education. I have had a tremendous opportunity, and I think our discussions and our collaboration between the University of Washington and the Center for Inclusive Education will no doubt lead to some fabulous opportunities for teachers some really great learning opportunities for students and some increased benefits for all schools.